Hello Yu-Gi-Oh players and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. So I'm going to do something today that I don't do very often, which is a top 5 video. But I just felt like I wanted to acknowledge a few very special cards in the game right now. So this is my top 5 list of most broken cards that have only been used in rogue decks, because I'm all in favor of broken cards. I like messing around, like seeing what potential certain extremely good cards have in them. And the problem is you get so many people complaining about the broken cards and even just the really good cards in the top tier that it really overshadows the spectacular brokenness that's hanging around in rogue decks today. So this list only includes cards that have only been used in rogue decks in the TCG so far. So my number 5 pick is a card we all know and hate, Shooting Quasar Dragon. Because we all know that feeling when our opponent puts a Quasar on the board. Unless we max seed or we already had a monstrous amount of card advantage over our opponent, when we see Shooting Quasar hit the board, we think, oh great, I lose. Look at that. I wanted to put Stardust Assault Mode on this list because in my opinion, it's even more broken than Shooting Quasar Dragon, but the fact that it's been pretty frequently used in Dragon Rulers recently kind of eliminated it from this deck. But Shooting Quasar is just so incredibly powerful that I don't even need to think about Stardust Dragon Assault Mode right now. The fact that this card is not only a colossal 4,000 beater, it can attack at least twice, and then it can negate one effect per turn, just any effect, and destroy the card. Not only that, but once you finally manage to get rid of it, you can put Shooting Star Dragon, which already has its own crazy effects, on the board with another 3,200 attack points for your opponent to get over. This card is just a powerhouse of a card. There's an excellent reason why when people talk about certain decks, like Fabled, or Laval, or Junk Doppel, they start out when they talk about it by saying, hey, this deck can make Quasar. Because if you can make Quasar, you automatically have a very powerful win condition. Now, the only reason this card isn't higher on my deck is because, well, first, it's a win condition in and of itself. If you put this card on the board, that is the card that wins the game. Once you've got this on the board, the game's already over. It doesn't actually advance you toward a win condition like many of the other cards that I have in this list are. The other problem with it is the fact that it takes so much work to put this card on the board right now that it often doesn't turn out to be worth it, particularly since these strategies can be disrupted by cards like Max C and Compulsory Evacuation Device, and so many cards can stop a Quasar combo that it's just too hard to put on the board in order to merit a higher spot in this list. My next card, number 4, is Madolche Ticket. I always tell you guys that a card is really good if it can take advantage of the most basic mechanics of the deck it works in, and Madolche Ticket does that to the T. It is a card on the class and in the class and on the level of Black Whirlwind and Wind Up Factory. Those cards are two extremely good cards I couldn't put on this list, of course, because they both belong to Tier 1 decks at a point. But Madolche Ticket does this in some cases even better than those cards, because Madolches already have this supreme advantage of being able to just have endless combos available to them. It's very rare that Madolches run out of things that their deck can do, because they're constantly recycling themselves, and what Madolche Ticket does is take advantage of that. Once you're doing that recycling, you can then set up for your next play with Madolche Ticket. If you've got a few Madolche Tickets on the board, or even just 2 on the board, you're already in an extremely broken situation. And if you've got those with Chateau on the board, you're just like bulldozing your opponent. And the other great thing about Madolche Ticket is it allows you to keep yourself on life support until you get a better plan. If you have to keep setting your Madolche monsters, if you have to be on the defensive, Madolche Ticket allows you to uphold those combos and make sure that you can continue to sustain your supply of resources while you are on the defensive. And one of the other amazing things about Madolche Ticket is the fact that once you have something like Tiramisu on the board, or even Pudding Cess if you happen to be running that card, once you have those on the board, it actually starts special summoning from the deck. Now you have to do that first which means that the combos that you've already been using have probably taken advantage of Madolche Ticket as far as they're going to. But if you can combine this card with Chateau and Tiramisu, you get the incredible brokenness. The only reason why this card is not higher up on the list is because it doesn't sustain combos so much as recovering resources from going off on combos. But the next card on my list does all of that. And that card is Divine Wind of Mist Valley. Now, I have a thing about cards that special summon from the deck that I apparently share with Konami, judging by what they tend to hit on ban lists, which is that if a card special summons monsters from the deck for relatively little cost, it is immediately a good card. I mean, take, for instance, 1/1, which isn't actually a 1/1, it's a -1. The card's still limited because it can special summon from the deck and gain combos that easily. Abyss Sphere is another excellent example. The thing about cards that special summon from the decks is they don't rely on such a finite number of resources as what's in your hand. They take from your entire available set of cards in order to put things on the board, and Divine Wind of Mist Valley does that for absolutely zero cost. Not only that, but it does it in tandem with the wind decks. Anyway, puns aside, the wind-based decks, their effects already do things that set off Divine Wind of Mist Valley. You combine this with Harpy Dancer, with Mist Valley Apex Avian, with Gen X ally Birdman. These cards all make this card go nuts, and it is just full of loops and crazy dumb stuff. I just think this is an absolutely poorly designed card, and there's a really good reason why it's currently limited in Japan. My next card reminds me a lot of Wind Up Shark, in that the debate between Wind Up Shark and Wind Up Magician being limited, the only reason why it was a debate was because so many people thought that Wind Up Shark just has too many effects. And the next card on my list, number 2, just says bitch please to Wind Up Shark. That card is the one and only W Nebula Meteorite. I don't know if you guys have ever played against this card or read this card. It is dumb how many things this card can do. And considering the fact that it takes advantage of the basic conditions and the basic mechanics of the deck that it works for, so effectively makes this card spectacular. So first, it changes all your face-down monsters face-up, which for Worms is exactly what it needs to do. It activates Yaghan's effect, it activates Carteros' effect. So if your opponent is starting to go for a push, if you have that face-down Yaghan, W Nebula Meteorite immediately turns into a compulsory evacuation device that's immune to a Forbidden Lance because it's, of course, a monster effect. And if it's during your opponent's turn, they can't Veiler the darn thing. So immediately, this card disrupts combos during your opponent's turn. Then during the end phase, it resets those monsters' effects, allow you to draw a card for each of them, and then, because that just wasn't enough, you can special summon a monster from your deck. No other deck has a card that takes advantage of the conditions and the basic mechanics of that deck so supremely as W Nebula Meteorite. This card is spectacular, and it's one of the reasons why I think Worms can actually compete on the same level as the decks like Dragons and Spellbooks. Is just because this card is so spectacularly good. But even this particular card, this card that has this many effects, that allows you to draw cards, special summon from the deck, reset your effects, activate your effects, all those things, doesn't hold a candle to my number 1 most broken rogue deck card of all time, Rekindling. Now, I'd like for you to take a moment to imagine the conversation that happened between 2 card creators, one guy who made Rekindling, and the person who's just kind of taking this in for the first time. So this dude's like, hey, I made a spell card that special summons monsters from the graveyard. He's like, oh, cool, that's pretty good. What does it special summon? Oh, fire monsters. Oh, how many? All of them. All of them? Yeah, as many as possible. As many fire monsters with 200 defense as possible in your graveyard. So, you know, like the entire Laval archetype, the entire Flamvel archetype, a good number of Fire King and Fire Fist monsters, all of those things you can special summon from the graveyard for what cost? Oh, it's free. No cost. Really, no cost. And you can use this card as many times per turn as you would like. This is just so ridiculously dumb, and I think it's the least well thought out card since in the recent, game, since like Spellbook of Judgment. I'm amazed that this card is a common. The reason why there is a little controversy as to whether this card deserves to be on this list is because 3-Axis was top tier in the OCG, but in the TCG, it never caught on because, of course, Spirit got limited. So this card is spectacularly broken, and the only reason why it isn't banned or limited right now is because the deck that it was in got hit so quickly, and it's never had a top tier deck since. So that is my list. I hope you guys like it. I hope this video isn't too long for you guys. Anyway, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below. Tell me what you guys think are the most broken rogue deck cards of all time, and I will, of course, talk to you guys about that and have that discussion. Meanwhile, subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Discussions, news, and general